Hey, Marc Millan here. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. And today I wanted to talk about working with your music director. So I realize that not every team may have a music director either on their team or on staff. I would encourage you to consider creating a role for it. It could be a volunteer, it doesn't have to be someone on staff, but a music director is someone who can really help the worship leader carry the vision of the weekend by serving kind of what I would call the behind the scenes language and conversation that needs to happen. A worship leader's focus is usually on leading the room and leading the service, but a music director can really help by leading the band and leading the singers. Nowadays, a lot of the music directors use stage mics, so they're able to talk to the musicians and the singers while they're on the platform. So these are some assumptions I'm making as we go into this video, but a music director is a huge benefit to the worship leader. So I want to go into 5 ways you can work with a music director if you have one, and I hope they help you, and I hope they can really make things easier for you as you serve on the weekends together with your team and with them. So number 1, give clarity to the flow. Give clarity to the flow of your song list. It may be 4 songs, it may be 3, it may be 6. It may be a night of worship. Whatever it is, give clarity to how the songs are going to go from song to song. If you have a particular ending from one song before the next song starts, those are the things you want to talk about beforehand, or at least cover beforehand with your music director, so that they can support those changes as they come up in the set. One of the areas of frustration or contention can be the disconnect between where the worship leader is thinking and what the music director is communicating. Simple way to solve that is to give clarity to the direction and the flow of the set list. So spend a little bit of time thinking about what you want as you go through your set list. Communicate that to your music director so that they can help you and the team move through the songs together. So that's number 1. Number 2, again, this is a little bit more in detail, but discuss transitions. How do you want to transition from one song to the next? A lot of times it can be ending in a certain way. Is the chorus going to be big? Is the chorus going to go down? Are we going to end on the 1? Are we going to resolve? Are we going to end on the 4? Whatever the transitions are, make sure you discuss your transitions as well with your music director. I'm going to give you a small little tip at the end of all this on how I do this, but I would say that's number 2, discuss transitions. Number 3, if you're using tracks, a lot of teams these days are using multi-tracks. I would suggest and encourage either you to have a conversation beforehand or to hear the tracks and review them with your music director. There's sometimes I have used certain songs where the tracks didn't match the arrangement I was trying to create. So I would take a recording and I would edit the MP3. So let's say I wanted to add a bridge at the end. Okay, the original recording didn't have a bridge. So if we just purchased the tracks that way, then when we kind of come to that final bridge, right, there's going to be a disconnect right there. So I always like to communicate and say, hey, I made a change to that arrangement, so can you please help make sure that we stay along lines with that arrangement. So I would review the tracks if you're using them. If you're not using tracks, you can skip this one entirely, but I think nowadays many people use tracks. So I would always review that before the team gets there. I have found it to be very helpful to not waste that time or that confusion with the whole team kind of waiting around us. Number 4, empower your music director at your rehearsals. Empower your leaders. If you have a music director, let them run with the rehearsal. Again, if you haven't done the first 3 things that I just mentioned, which is give clarity to the flow, discuss transitions, review the tracks, then it's going to be hard to empower them because you're going to have to say a lot of things at the rehearsal because they didn't know what you wanted, the band doesn't know what you wanted, and now you're having to be the one to, oh, actually I wanted to, end the song this way. Oh, actually I wanted to resolve there. Oh, actually can we? And before you know it, it's all this kind of in the moment direction that can sometimes work itself out, but oftentimes I've found that it adds a lot of pressure and confusion because people they want to do a great job, and all of a sudden they're bombarded with all these ideas that, to be fair, the leader themselves has had in their minds. They just didn't find a way to communicate it. So if you've gotten all those other things done, clarity of the flow, transitions, now you can empower your music director to lead the rehearsal. You can step in and say a few words. Hey guys, this is what the rehearsal is going to look like. This is what today's going to look like. And then you can pray, and then after that, you hand it over to them and you let them lead. Because when you're in the service, they're going to be following your music director anyway. So the more that person can communicate and give direction, the stronger the trust is and the consistency is when you're in a real-time service, that they'll follow and listen. You should be finding a way to communicate with your music director in a way that you guys understand each other. But then they're the ones who are kind of translating that to the team. So empowering them is huge. You gotta let them lead. You gotta let them build trust and confidence through their leadership to the team, because that's ultimately where you're hoping will happen. And then number 5, lead through them, and that kind of ties into what I just mentioned. Leading through them means if you want to change something or make an adjustment, I would encourage you, unless you absolutely have to be the one to say it, to kind of communicate that to your music director and let them be the ones who communicate it. Say, hey, we're still not where we need to be with that bridge. We still need to build that. So if you can get the team to kind of step up to that, that'd be great. Those sort of things help the team understand the leadership of the music director and allows the music director to really be the one who helps pull the team in the right direction, while the worship leader is able to focus on getting the room to go where it needs to go and get the service where it needs to go. So those are a number of things. Now here's one thing that I do to kind of solve a lot of these 5 things that I just gave you. I record memos for my team, and I often will record almost all my details in those memos for everybody on the team, including the music director. If you want the music director to know some specific things, you can send them a voice memo separately. But a lot of times, as we're getting ready for our services, I will record a little memo on my phone. I just grab my phone, or grab my guitar, or I'll grab a keyboard. If I have to play a song on the laptop, I'll have that nearby. And I'll just talk through, hey, I like this song, I like the way it ends. I just want to stay pretty much right the way it ends right there, and then I want to go right into the next song. Or I might say, hey, I'm going to talk at the end of this song, so just watch me when we come to the end of it. I'm just going to kind of give you a little peek, and then I'm going to speak, and then I'll cue you to go into the next song. A lot of those things are things that can be avoided ahead of time. So I usually record them on a voice memo. Transitions, hey, I'll play it on my guitar. Hey, I'm thinking when we get to the end here, I want to hold this out. I'm going to sing something like this, and then you can go ahead and launch that next song. If you're unaware or familiar with it, there is a parody account on Instagram called Worship Fails. I cringe a lot of time watching it because I've made so many of those mistakes. But a lot of the mistakes I see on that account are these. They're a lack of clarity on the flow, transitions weren't discussed, cues. Sometimes cues are not that complicated. You know, you can really talk ahead of time and say, hey, we're gonna go the first 2 songs back to back, and then when we come out of that second song, I'm just gonna look at you real quick, and I'm gonna talk, and then at the end of that talk, I'll just kind of give you a cue. A lot of the times, it's just about communication. So, a lot of times I'll put that on a recording on my phone, I'll send it to the team, and they pretty much have an insight to all the things that I'm thinking and all the things I want to get accomplished ahead of time. And then when we rehearse or we run through the music, now we're just practicing it together, and we're just kind of going through what we've already discussed was going to happen. So give clarity to the flow, discuss transitions, review the tracks if needed, empower your music directors at rehearsal, and lead through them. This will allow you to be more of a shepherd over your team, and it allows your team to build confidence and trust in one another, and it really frees you up. This is the biggest benefit of this. Working with a music director frees you up to really shepherd and pastor the service. which is really what I think is our greatest focus. And where our greatest energy and focus should be. And not only that, but pastoring and shepherding your team in the process as well. When we're stuck in all the details, kind of robs us of all that relational equity that we can be building. So that's why I encourage this for you. I hope it helps. And hey, until next time, from my heart to yours.